supergroup of the pre-rock era, the Almanac Singers, who lasted little more than a year, recorded 3 albums and changed the face of 20th century music. Anchored around Pete Seeger, their lineup occasionally included everyone from Woody Guthrie to Lead Belly and Josh White Sr.
You can't talk about music in the 20th century, music that was relevant and political, without beginning with Pete Seeger and Woody Guthrie.
I roamed and rambled, and I followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands of her diamond deserts.
It all leads back to Woody. It all leads back to the little guy who's, you know, there right on the cusp of folk music and pop music. You know, the original alternative singer-songwriter who wrote This Land Is Your Land as an alternative to the #1 hit of the day, God Bless America by Irving Berlin.
This land is yours, this land is mine, this land was made for you and me.
Woody was the most creative songwriter I've ever known. I've known people like Bob Dylan and Phil Oakes, Buffy St. Marie and Joni Mitchell. They're wonderful songwriters, but I never knew anybody who could literally write a song every morning and every evening.
But the rustlers broke on us in the dead hours of night. She rose from her blanket, a battle to fight.
My parents both were world changers. The Depression, the Dust Bowl, I mean, the combination of Mother Nature and Wall Street had certainly dealt a 1-2 punch to my father's friends and neighbors. They both had a commitment to making sure that the man-made devastation wouldn't happen again. I mean, they both were very involved politically, socially, spiritually, on every level.
War broke out, Pearl Harbor, and we were lucky to get on a big radio program, heard from coast to coast. About 2 days later, there was an article in a newspaper. Commie folk singers try to infiltrate radio. And that was the last job we got. So we knew what the blacklist was, and we expected it. We were not surprised. And we didn't get any more commercial jobs, but we kept on singing.
Oh, Hughie Ledbetter, he was a mighty fine man. He taught us this song and to the whole wide land, but now he's done with all his grieving, whooping, hollering, and a-crying. Now he's done with all his studying about his great long time. Oh, let the midnight special
Sing it with us.
shine a light on me.
Oh, sing it.
Oh, let the midnight special shine a ever-loving light on me. Oh, let the midnight special shine a light on me. Oh, let the midnight special shine a ever-loving light on me. Ever-loving light on me. We are marching to Pretoria.
In 1952, denounced as communists by the McCarthy hearings, the Weavers were banned from performing in public. On Christmas Eve 1955, they reunited for a triumphant performance at Carnegie Hall, an event that has become part of folk legend and that produced a live album now considered one of the high points of the protest movement.
I remember going on a class trip to see Pete Seeger perform, and there were all these picketers out there. I mean, people handing out leaflets from the John Birch Society, a sort of right-wing fundamentalist organization, you might say, saying that Pete was a subversive.
Have you been to jail for justice? I want to shake your hand, 'cause sitting in and lying down are ways to take a stand. Have you sung a song for freedom or marched that picket line? Have you been to jail for justice?
then you're a friend of mine.
The 50s, when we were in high school, was a time of a terribly dark and painful political period when people were persecuted for their political beliefs and when there were accusational positions taken against people that were incorrect, and they were asked to inform on each other in order to prove that they were patriotic. You have to realize that this was a violation, from most people's perspective, of everything that presumably the country is about.
Oh, freedom! Oh, freedom!
On December the 1st, 1955, in Montgomery, Alabama, Rosa Parks refused to sit at the back of the bus where black people were banished to, sparking a year-long bus boycott to end segregation, which became the wider civil rights movement led by Martin Luther King, fighting for the rights of black citizens to eat, live and vote like the rest of the population. The civil rights movement, which came up against violent opposition in the South, enjoyed massive support from musicians across all genres, from Tony Bennett and Sammy Davis Jr. to Joan Baez, Seeger, Dylan, Peter, Paul and Mary, Mahalia Jackson and beyond. Some acts whose music remained resolutely apolitical played a massive part behind the scenes, nobody more so than actor and calypso singer Harry Belafonte.
Dr. King knew that he would have to have help from the outside, so he started to reach out to places in America where he felt he would most likely have a positive response. And I was one of the people that he called. We talked for 4 hours. And at the end of the 4 hours, I knew that I was in the presence of someone who would change the course of history.
He was an extraordinary man. His great skill was in bringing people together. Cautious, conservative people who said, oh no, we'll get in trouble. And angry, violent people said, oh, we're going to throw something. They're throwing things at us, we got to throw things at them. And King would bring them together saying, we have got to work together. If we stay together, we can win. Took him 13 months, and by gosh, they won the bus boycott.
You think of him and all that he achieved and all he was, the magnificent inspiration he was and continues to be, and he was taken from us at 39 years of age.
The civil rights movement alone, humankind saw another part of humankind standing together and making something happen.
Now I'm tired of segregation, and now I want my equal rights.
Seeing this humanity way, way, way back, knowing that most of us as blacks in the civil rights movement did not believe in turning the other cheek, but we would try it.
They were a wonderful mass of humanity, children, old people, black, white, just loving being there and saying, yes, yes, we can be one nation, one people.
Out of the civil rights movement came a song adapted by Pete Seeger from a 19th century Negro spiritual that has become arguably the greatest political anthem of all time, sung around the world in so many languages that it has taken on a life of its own.
And this song has a kind of a calm confidence that says somehow, we, you, I, and them, we all of us, we shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome.
It was a 50-mile march from an Air Force base to the UN. And Pete Seeger began singing We
There are three names which are very important in this period until the 60s, which are Woody Guthrie, Pete Seeger, okay, and afterwards during the 60s, Bob Dylan. These three people depended their creation and based their creation on folk music and folk poetry and criticism of the whole social structure. Okay.
Seeger began singing "We Shall Overcome." And it was so overpowering to me as a 21-year-old kid that I wept and cried at the power of this song.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome.
When they sang that, the thugs who were there, they didn't hit them, they didn't kick them in the teeth, they begged them to stop.
Deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
And that story goes on all the time. You hear about jailers begging them to stop. You hear about cops begging them to stop. You hear about the Klansmen, stop this music.
Black and white together, black and white together.
If you ever get amongst a whole bunch of folks, even from different nations, and you start playing "We Shall Overcome," I'll bet you they sing. I bet you they know it.
That's what's not in any of the topical songs of today. It's not in the Springsteen songs. It's not in Billy Bragg's songs. Not because Bruce Springsteen and Billy Bragg aren't great songwriters, because each of them is, but because they're about 10,000 people short of a movement.
There was such incredible energy. And sitting here, looking back over the gains that we did make and seeing how they have been being chipped away at, I'm pleased that I was called upon to participate in the civil rights movement. But our work is certainly not done.
John is in a basement mixing up the medicine. I'm on the pavement thinking about the government.
One young singer who played a part in the civil rights movement would go on to fuse folk's political heritage with electrified rock music at the moment when technological advances were creating a global explosion of pop culture. The timing and genius of his work would change forever the status of political music.
Where Andy Warhol meets Pete Seeger, you got Bob Dylan or something. It was quite a moment.
Different strains of popular music were beginning to converge in the great 60s crucible. This would be around the time that Dylan began to import the folk tradition of polemical protest into rock music. And as a result, that whole folk tradition flowed into the mainstream, as it were, bringing with it the history